Greetings and welcome to Wachari Nation Building Monday Live.
We have the trees to fulfill the contracts that we already have.
Every time God show me a plant, I can see that plant everywhere.
We are descended from a people that have always been independent.
Basically, it's 34 plants that we want to return to be cultivated in the different communities.
And welcome to Wachari Nation Building Monday Live. I am Ifasina Efunyemi.
Good night, Vitigunyo. Once again, we're here with another episode of Wachari Nation Builders Monday Live.
So tonight, of course, we are glad to have our expert, our herbalist, and she will be talking with us this time about cassava. Cassava is very significant to Garifuna culture. I mean, I think that is definitely our root plant, literally and figuratively. We definitely are a cassava eating people, and so it features prominently in being Garifuna, and so it's quite appropriate for us to talk about that here on Wachari Nation Building Monday Live, as we discuss the various plants that we encourage our people to have in their yards, to have on their farms. This is one that is definitely a source of nourishment because it is a food item that's very versatile. But I'm not the one that's going to give you all that information. Dr. Arzu will be sharing, as usual, her very informative PowerPoints. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to do so in the comments here on any of our pages and channels. So, Dr. Arzu, welcome again, and let's talk Sunkate Yuga.
I know.
Eriba.
You guys, Sukate. Yes. I don't think we have any activity or event in the history of our culture that does not include this plant or this crop. But we're gonna go over the things we already know. But today I want to share with you things you probably don't know, and they probably don't want you to know. But this is your plant. This is our plant, and you should know. So that's what I want to put forth. So if Mr. Marley can help me get my presentation out there. Ah, is that it? Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my Lord. Okay, so Marley, you're gonna have to follow me with the slides, or if you want me to say next slide. Okay, so
No, I can keep up.
okay. So yes, it's the cassava, yuga. Its name is Manihot esquelenta. That's the botanical name. And really, Manicot is a Tupi word. The Tupi is an indigenous nation from Brazil. That's mostly in Brazil. Um, and Manihot is their word for wood spirit, or the name of their wood spirit. And it's because of a legend. The legend has it that this mother was watching her child starve and just prayed and prayed and prayed for no children to starve. She just felt the pain of a mother watching a child starve. And when the child died, she buried the child, and this wood spirit appeared to her and turned the child into the roots of the cassava. So that's where the name Mani comes from. It means wood spirit. And when you dig out a cassava, it kind of looks like that. So, like Ifa said, it is our plant. It is a staple within our culture, and everyone who's visited any Garifuna knows that. Um, It's a tropical herbaceous perennial plant. It just means it just keeps growing. You can plant it from stick. It reproduces itself. It grows anywhere from 3 to 5 meters in height. It has very small flowers. You hardly ever see them. They're greenish yellow, almost the same color as the leaf. And it seeds from capsules, which explode when ripe in order to distribute their load. But we seldom plant from seed. In fact, I don't know anywhere where it's planted from seed. It's usually planted from stick. But this talk is not about propagation of cassava. It's about the miracle of what cassava is. Um, the roots have, you see the roots there? They look like almost like a small child, right? Or a small creature of some sort. It's got appendages, and they form these large starchy tubers. They're mostly carbohydrates, is what they provide. They're dark brown fibers, uh, with the fibers covering, and the flesh inside is white. Now, the roots are poisonous when you eat them raw, and that's why we don't eat them raw. We have to cook them. Next slide. So there are different types of cassava roots that we use to make different types of food or for human consumption. We use it to make ereba. We use it to make flour. We use it to prepare mush, like tapioca. Like we use it to, we can fry them, boil them fresh and fry them like French fries. They can be used to make chicha, an alcoholic beverage. I'm not really sure about the hiyu. Maybe someone can talk about that later, about how cassava is incorporated in hiyu. We use it to make tapioca, and a lot more. Okay, so this is our ereba. This is our most staple food, um, and everyone recognizes this. This is our beautiful ereba, and what we mostly use the cassava root for. It is a Garifuna diet staple. The whole root, we use it for many things. We use it to make breads, to make pastries, drinks, puddings, alcoholic beverages, and it's commonly served in most meals in one way or another. But what I want to talk about today is the leaf. Now we know about the root. Most of us have experienced it, grown up with it, tasted it, but very few of us have experience with the leaf. Now, if you notice the cassava root itself, it's mostly a starch, a carbohydrate, and it doesn't have a lot of nutrition. All of the nutrition of this plant is mostly in the leaf. The leaf is very rich in vitamins B, C, keratin, very high in calcium and iron. And the leaves are edible, but you have to select the young ones, and you can pretty much tell which ones they are. They're the smaller ones and they're the tender ones. Um, you see, they look almost like a hand. They're deeply indented and palmate like. Say they would have 3 to 7 lobes, sometimes 10 actually, and they're attached by a slender stem.
Wow.
So it's best to consume the leaves when they are young and tender, because the older ones are a little tough, and you don't want to mix the tough ones because it'll make your meal tough to eat. Um, they have I've eaten them, I've cooked them, and I absolutely love them. It was Nana who told me about eating cassava leaves, and he gave me the recipe, and I absolutely love it. They have a mild, bland flavor. It's kind of like spinach, only it's more fragrant. It's
Mm-hmm.
tastier. Um, the raw leaves and the roots, again, I'm going to say this probably on every slide, they contain high amounts of hydrocyanic acid, which is a poison, but it's neutralized by cooking. So the
Mm-hmm.
moral of the story is just cook it. Just cook it, man. Just cook it. So the leaves, you have to boil them. I boil them from 45 minutes to an hour. Um, and then you cool them, or you can just keep it in the fridge. But that's what would remove the toxins of the leaf. And then you cook them just like a vegetable. You cook them to take the poison out, and then you repackage them and store them. You can freeze them, and you can even buy them frozen in some places where the toxins have already been removed. All right, now this is where it gets good, right? The cassava leaf is used in folk medicine. We can mash the roots and the leaves, and in some practices they apply it to tumors, but also yagas and any kind of growth on the skin. We use it as a styptic, and this is everywhere. This is a common way to stop a machete wound from bleeding. Like any deep cut that you can't get it to stop bleeding, the white sap that comes off when you take a cassava leaf off, that is a styptic. You can use that to stop the bleeding of wounds. You could also just mash up the leaf itself and cover the wound. This is how we use it, and I'm just sharing how we use it. You can also take the starch. You know, even when you make a reba and you collect that starch, I've seen the elders, they mix that with rum, like a diluted rum, and use it to massage the body for body pain or for skin problems or rashes and things like that. So the other uses do include. This show is too short to go into everything, but there are many other uses for um, the properties of the cassava leaf. We use it against fever, against chills, to treat infertility, and as an application for sore muscles. So there is. Did I skip one? No, I didn't.
No, you're on point.
Okay, good. So there is current research underway to test cassava as a type of gene therapy to treat certain kinds of cancer. So we're moving on up. So far, only animal studies have been undertaken, but they have been successful. Um, the cassava, for those people who are gluten free or gluten intolerant, it's a very useful source of starch for gluten intolerance, because the cassava is a healthy starch that does not contain any gluten whatsoever. So it's something to satisfy the gluten free people. But people allergic to latex should avoid this plant because that white sap, that is latex, a type of latex. So next slide, and here we go. I couldn't leave you without sharing some mouth-watering recipes, at least the titles. I don't have the whole recipes, but these are the different ways that um, the cassava leaf is consumed in different cultures, mostly in Africa. The stewed pounded cassava, cassava leaves in coconut milk, cassava leaf soup, cassava leaf in coconut sauce, baked cassava, that's the plastic cake that we have here in Belize, cassava leaves with shrimp and fish. And they make this with like a salted dried fish, really nice. So what you call carn fish. Cassava leaf curry, make it just like curry callaloo, or curried spinach. You just use the cassava leaf. And I heard that there was some cassava leaf ice cream. No, not really. I know that there's cassava ice cream, but possibly in the near future, we'll also have cassava leaf ice cream instead of just cassava ice cream. Look at this. This is huge. It's huge that we can put out an ice cream from our sacred plant. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the wood spirit god ice cream. you know, it's just so deep. And I see you can enterprise that too. You know, the same way you got Ben and Jerry's and all these other franchise type of ice cream
Mm-hmm.
labels and outlets. I think it's beautiful. I love the fact that she is so busy. That says a lot about a business, you know. And there's no, she's not idle. She's continually working. So there is
Mm-hmm.
definitely a demand. So the
Mm-hmm.
idea that we're just growing cassava to boil and eat or to make ereba, that has to be abandoned. That's not all
Yeah.
we do. We
Yeah.
do more than that.
That's
In fact,
right.
we do, even like the dancers say, we do more than just dance Jankanu. There's a lot more that we do.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, we have just abandoned these other creative things that we did. I think that we invented all these different varieties of cassava products, but we just
Yes.
settled to now only the Sabals make areba. You know, only certain people make the plastic cake, and
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to every Chinese store um, to buy alien things, walking over all of the things that our land is
Mm-hmm.
giving us, and even
Mm-hmm.
dessert, even ice cream. Can you believe it? From
I
cassava.
could
So
believe it. I could
I
believe it.
can't wait for her to be on the show. I really can't
Yes.
wait so that
Yes.
we can hear and expound this beautiful entrepreneurial idea. I really would love to hear her experience. I was a little disappointed that we couldn't get her on the show, but I definitely want to have her back.
Mhm.
Yes,
Get
I
her.
We
hope she
will.
comes back
We
too.
surely
I hope
Yeah.
she
will.
comes back.
Because that's what we
Uh,
that's been our trend, right? We're finding our people, our entrepreneurs doing creative
uh-huh.
things, and our culture gives us all that opportunity. We have so much. Like our
That's right.
ancestors gave us all this raw material essentially
Yes.
to work with, and
On
all we
the
have to do is
At
like work it.
Yeah, at one of the workshop, at the one of the Wachari workshop, Nana told us that we can use the cassava as a way to control pests on the farm, and he demonstrated that if you would use the bitter cassava and you plant it around the edges of the farm, the animals won't come inside because they will think it's all bitter cassava. Yeah, so there are many uses of cassava.
Mhm.
Even the juice after you strain the cassava, you can also use the juice to control pests. So there are many things we can do with cassava. All these technologies, we need.
Oh
Now, did we
no,
lose Marley too?
technology is failing us
Yes,
today.
it is. But we're still here holding strong that.
Hey,
We're still
but
here.
on the other hand, I'm feeling unappreciated because I worked very hard on the research for the leaf thing, and nobody's saying anything about that.
Listen, so
What? I'm
so
logging off. I'm leaving.
Feline wrote that she had tried the leaves too.
Oh,
Yes. So she said, but she got impatient, right? She got impatient with it. So it would be great to hear more about how to, because you mentioned the key thing is making sure that you get the leaves when they're younger,
yeah,
right? Not the
yeah.
older
She probably
leaves.
had old leaves. Poor
So she
Feline.
said it took a while, but
All the gas she wasted.
that's another good addition right there.
Yeah.
And of course, being able to make the distinction between the bitter and the sweet.
Well, with the leaf,
Because,
it doesn't. With the leaf, it doesn't matter. The
all
leaf
right, well,
is
that's
has
good
the
to know. That's
yeah
good
has
to know.
but what happened with me is like I picked different types at different times because I didn't think there was a difference. But one of them is more fragrant. Another one is sweeter. One of them would be a little tart. So they all have their different nuances and flavor. It's
Mm-hmm.
good to try them all and see which one appeals to you. But I found that my whole body just reacted in a way like it was getting real food. It's better than spinach. I absolutely love it. And doesn't matter how long you cook it, it's not going to tenderize. What you have to do with it is put it in either a blender or pulverize it. Or we used to pound it. In the way they make it in Africa, they actually pound the leaves to kind of pulverize them, and then they
Ah,
absorb the gravy. And I had it in a
okay.
peanut butter and tomato sauce, which was just awesome. And it's very easy to make. Poor Feline. Try it again, Feline, but do the tender leaves
Yes,
and beat them up a little or put them in the food processor, um,
yes.
and then see what happens.
And Nibuga Gwen was asking, how do we tell the difference between the bitter and the sweet?
That's a question that's why Nana should have been here and y'all didn't invite him. So I don't tread on other people's domains.
All right.
That's a good question for Baba though.
Yeah.
The elders of our communities, they know
Yeah, they know
exactly
it.
how.
Yes.
They absolutely, it's just like magic. So I don't know, but if someone is listening, I know John Aran is on the line. He would know. John, do you tell us, how do you tell the difference between the bitter and the sweet cassava? Because many people have accidentally planted one when they thought they were planting the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
Baba tried to teach me, but my brain didn't grab it right. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
John says, look, cassava is versatile. Cassava flour, starch, ethanol, and beverages. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but how do you tell the bitter from the sweet, John?
Yes. Because then you make different products from each one too.
Yeah, yeah. And you can tell sometimes when you have those plastics, I buy them from the store. Sometimes there's a bitter in them. You could tell that they mixed the bitter cassava with the sweet cassava. You could tell.
Ah.
Yeah.
So the sweet one has purple in the stem.
Who
It's
said that?
in the stem. That's what Nibuka Gwen says her mom told her.
Oh, okay. So it would be. Let me see. Oh, so the slide that I had, that was the sweet one, the edible one, because it had a purple stem. Yeah. Okay. Wait. Let me. Who's doing that? Marley? That
Me.
you? Oh, that's you.
Yes.
Yeah, that one right there.
All
That.
right.
Yeah. So that's the purple stem.
Okay.
See, so that's a sweet one. Look at what we
Mm-hmm.
learned on
Mm-hmm.
Wachari WNBL.
Yeah,
Look what
that's
we
right.
learned. This is great. Thank you, Gwen.
Yeah.
Right.
And see,
Baffled.
and that's what I like about it too, that we could learn from each other. We could learn in this exchange right here. I want to tap into what another person shared, her name Martin. Trading and growing, including tobacco, goes way back to the inter-island trade of the original Kalinago. The merge of Kalina and the Malian expeditions of the 1300s. We're getting some history here, Doc. The
Whoa.
most dominant powerhouse of the Lesser and Greater Antilles. In the late 1400s, Columbus wrote of the black traders from Esi of Cuba, which is Yurume and Waitukubule, or so named St. Vincent and Dominica, respectively, by Columbus, as he sailed by too afraid to disembark. So fierce the reputation of the mighty Kalinago.
Well, you
Excellent,
got that
excellent
right.
spin.
I'm scared of myself now. I don't want to run into me.
Yeah, and we just need to know our history, and it's in everything. It's in how we use the spaces that we occupy, the kind of foods that we consume, and how versatile we are with them. That we Because it always amazed me to learn about the bitter cassava, and how, I mean, of course, this is something that's toxic, but we knew how to get it, to remove the toxicity and get food out of it. And something, I mean, the ereba, that's powerful food right there, you know
Well,
healthy
legend,
food, powerful, long lasting.
yes. Legend has it that it was the Maniac spirit, that wood spirit that taught the people, the native people, how to take the poison out, how to prepare it. And when the children were hungry, it would give them another recipe to make this dessert or this candy. So all of these recipes came from this wood spirit.
Yeah, imagine the plant. If the plant has food and drink, like you could eat
And
and drink
medicine,
and
medicine.
have medicine
Yeah. You can stop
from the
wounds from
one plant.
bleeding. You can heal infections. You can reduce tumors and ulcers. It's everything we need.
Hmm. And I know a lot of people didn't know the things that you shared tonight. You really brought some new information about cassava. I didn't know some of these things before, because I'm only accustomed to consume. I mean, I love cassava. I
Me
love
too.
boiled cassava. I enjoy saho, ereba.
Yes.
That's, but to know that there are, now we could explore with the leaves. And I'm sure if we look it up on YouTube, there are some recipes there as
Oh
well.
yeah. That's a great
Definitely.
idea. Yeah. Everybody do your own research. Look it up. You know?
Cassava leaves. Just because, and for those of us that don't know how to use it, then we waste so much. So this is also why it's good to talk and to share.
Yeah.
Because in certain cultures, we might use a particular food item or plant
Mhm.
in a particular way, and then we never explored any other way to consume that thing until we interact with some other group, and then we find out, well, they do this with it. So
Mhm.
so then that just basically expands our use, because when you learn from other people what else they do with it, then that means there's just more that you now know you could do with this product that's already
Mhm.
very important to your culture. Prior to that, we would essentially have wasted so much of it because we just didn't explore or never knew that we could use it in this other way, in these other ways. So the
Mm-hmm.
learning never stops, and it's
Mm-hmm.
never too late for us to learn something new about what we could do with the products that we produce that are important to us. And this doesn't mean, because some people believe that when you introduce a new way, it's as if you're losing the culture, somehow the tradition is under threat. That doesn't have to be the case at all. It's just a new way to use the same thing.
We have to grow. This is evolution.
Hmm.
This is you're protecting the culture. I mean, you're protecting the integrity of the value, because all of those traditions have a value to them, and that's why we have the tradition to keep that value. So as long as we keep the value, there may be some feathers around the edges that might change color,
Hmm.
but it's the value that's important. And with the case with the cassava, it's the feeding of our people. What does it hurt for all of us to plant one cassava plant? Because someone will always be hungry. You can always feed somebody. That's like
Hmm.
extra food in your refrigerator.
Hmm.
You know, it doesn't have to be for hard times. Maybe extra company will come and you just dig it out and cook it up in all these different kind of ways for
Hmm.
people. But it would be good if we could just honor the plant for the sake of the spirit, for the manioc, for the this wood spirit, and have that protective prayer, because the plant itself represents that you will not starve. Where this
Hmm.
plant grows, you will not go hungry.
Yeah,
No one will go hungry as long as this spirit is
there's
here.
cassava. Yeah.
So on that basis, I think we have an obligation to keep the cassava plant growing on our
Hmm.
lands, even if it's just one plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to thank John for his contribution. He said the variety is identified by the number
Thank
of leaf
you.
fingers and
Ah,
the color of the stem.
we got some smart people in this group.
Yeah. So
John,
I'm
you're
guessing that the
brilliant.
one behind you would be the bitter one, because
Uh oh.
that sweet one that we had here, it has less, right? So it's
That's five.
Yeah.
right.
I think
But
mine has 10 or
yeah,
something.
the one
Wow.
behind you is much bigger. It has more fingers. So I guess that, unless another expert, anybody who has more information,
No, I
please
think
feel
he's
free to
right. One, two,
share.
three, four, five, 6, 7, 8. This
Right?
one has 9. Yeah,
See
this is a bitter one. Yeah.
what Gwen
Wow,
says,
that's
she
a good
eats it
one.
every day.
She eats what every day?
Cassava.
Listen to what John is saying. He said, did you see that? He says that there's a shortage of potato fries recently, and cassava makes good fries. Yes, yes.
It
This is one of the things
does. It
I
surely
love them.
does.
Because cassava and sweet potatoes, that camote that
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
just kick around like balls in the ground. We have food, people.
Yeah, we do.
We have
We
food.
have we
We
grow
have no
food.
money because we're spending money in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But buying food when the earth is giving us really good food that people in other parts of the world are kicking themselves over to get.
Yeah. Yep. Because we have the breadfruit, and we have the
Yeah.
sweet potato and the cassava. And we could be doing fries with
Yeah.
those for sure.
Ifa, you mentioned the breadfruit. That one also has latex, and it also has the sealant to stop wounds from bleeding. For
Oh,
the breadfruit, yeah,
really?
the same latex sap. Yeah, it was the
Wow.
Oh, that's
original
cool.
band aid. The
Yeah.
original band aid. Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
I'll tell you what happens a lot, that people give certain plants a bad reputation, right? So
Mm.
remember what happened with coconut and coconut oil
Mhm.
and all of that, right?
They
It
lied to
was a big
us.
lie. It's a
Hmm.
propaganda. It was to remove
Hmm.
us from using this very precious thing, just so that we end up importing it, right?
Hmm.
Process, when we have it right here and could be doing it ourselves. It's always healthier. The closer it is to you, the healthier it is, right? The better it is for you. So the same would happen with masapan, with breadfruit,
Breadfruit.
where people speak negatively about breadfruit. So then we don't want to eat breadfruit, like something is wrong with breadfruit, when it is excellent food.
Hmm.
plus medicine, as
That's
you're
manna from
explaining.
heaven. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, this is why we have to keep sharing this information, that
Yeah.
because it's not too late for us. We have to pay attention to what we still have. We haven't lost these things as yet. We still have them. And so it's imperative that we really honor them, as you mentioned. Honor them, because these are the things that made us survive the most difficult of times as a people. All these foods that some people as a result of colonization and modernization look down on. There have been households where they speak about green bananas or plantains and coconuts, like that is some, like that's shameful food. Like you're not, you
Ah,
know, we grew up eating that, so we don't want to eat that anymore. But we should continue to eat the thing that we grew up on. It's the reason that we are alive today. It, all the nutrients in those things. And I really appreciate your presentation, and others that I know you will be doing and have done, because they show us something we never had a discussion around. What's good in banana, what's good in cassava, what's good in breadfruit. So this is now the space where we're going to do that. Let people know what's good in the food that we eat, what's good in sweet potatoes. So we don't have to be looking at other people's food for nutrients when we have our own food right around us. We have our herbs right around us that we have been using traditionally. We just didn't know. We didn't have at those in those days. We didn't have the scientific names, and so there was no book that said, it has this, all this in it, right? Now you're putting that together, Doc, and I hope you put something together indeed, that gets published. We're
it
encouraging that
is.
here on Wachari, right?
Don't give
Something
away
that
the
gets
surprise.
published that shows us the nutritional value, the medicinal value of the things that we traditionally consume as a people. It could be very enlightening, because I believe it might be very well associated with some of the things that don't ail us. Yes, we have some things that ail us. We know it. But there are other things that don't ail us, and they don't ail us because of what we have traditionally consumed and what we've traditionally done as a people. And we need to know it, we need to learn it, so that those persons that do not now consume our traditional foods get back into consuming our traditional foods. And we have to be creative too. For In terms of food security, we don't have to be relying on white flour, for example, when we could do cassava flour.
Gluten
We could do
free.
but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, gluten free. We could do banana flour, plantain flour, breadfruit flour. Like, we could be doing our own flours, different alternatives to the processed ones that we get, right? So, man, opportunities are bound for
Well,
us.
those are the entrepreneurs that we're looking to connect with. Those are the kind of partnerships we're looking for, because Wachari is doing the growing. We've organized the growing part.
Mm-hmm.
So we can grow this and we can grow that. We have certainly organized the scientific validation of everything that we're growing. And that's what we're proving here in this show. So we know what our stuff is good for. Now we're looking for people who have their own ideas as to how to put these products out there, like our cassava ice cream, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And other innovative ideas. Maybe there's a cassava soap. Who knows? There's all kinds of stuff out there. I came across the loofah. What is the Garifuna word for loofah?
I heard mommy saying that recently, but I can't remember, right? But
Because I
it's what we call the Spanish towel, right? But I forget the
yes,
Garifuna word for it.
I want to do that one soon, because there's a lot in there that we've lost with that
Mm.
particular plant. I see people chopping it.
Oh.
They hurt me. Somebody just chopped down a whole vine. You have no idea what you just killed there. So
Ah,
these are things
oh,
we're going to talk about. But now I eat areba now with a whole different thing in mind.
yeah.
and I see the leaves very differently. So, and now I'm gonna just stick to the sweet cassava leaf. Okay, Feline too. Let's not mess with the bitter cassava leaf because it's
Yeah.
big and tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So it's there's so much for us to learn, Doc. There's a whole lot for us to learn. And these are the kinds of conversations that we didn't necessarily have with our elders. Um,
Yeah.
just because it I guess it didn't seem like important. You know, you ate what you got, what you were given. You ate, you appreciated, you accepted.
It was a different time.
Mhm. But now I guess it's necessary, and I think that it would be very encouraging as well to provide this kind of information, especially to the younger generation. There will be a higher level of consciousness. So you're living Garifuna, you're really, embodying Garifuna Duo because of knowing fully and appreciating fully all that it means to be Garifuna, the things we consume, why we consume them, what's the value in them, how good are they for us, and what they do for us, not just personally in terms of our physical and spiritual well-being, but how they do for us as a community and as a nation. Because in the growing of these foods, there was always the building of community as well. It was never you're going to your farm by yourself and you're just going to be trying to put the farm together alone. That's not the traditional way. It's a collective effort. It's we help each other out clearing our farms, and we give each other guidance about what we're going to grow and things like that. We look out for each other. That's priceless.
Hmm.
You can't learn that at university. You learn that in life. The university of life is where you learn that. You learn community. So as we are sharing and growing in our knowledge of these rich things, these powerful things that we have in our culture, it can only get better, I believe. The more conversations like this that we have, the better it will be. So, which one can we expect to hear about from you next? Because a couple others came up tonight, like the breadfruit came up and the sweet potato came up.
Oh
So
yeah.
already, I'm sure I'm not the only one that wants to now know. Okay, so what all can you tell us about breadfruit? What all can you tell us
Oh
about
my
sweet
God.
potato?
That's a whole show. That's a monster. That breadfruit thing. But if we talk, I really want to follow that yellow heart. Was it the gold, the one from Barranco? There's something about that breadfruit that is different than all other breadfruits. And I've eaten them wherever I go in the world. I will eat breadfruit. There's something about that golden heart, and I want to know why it's so buttery and sweet and
Mhm.
aromatic. Why is that breadfruit like that?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be good to know who brought it. How
John
did we,
Aranda might know.
how we got some of them, how we got
Yeah.
some of the varieties. Because that's also another thing that happened traditionally. If we went to a different location and we were exploring people,
Mhm.
so you go to another place, you might see something, you're familiar with it, but it's a little bit different. So you might bring that species over, bring it and try it out on your farm and see, what the yields look like. That's how we end up with so many different varieties of things. And
Mhm.
actually, John spoke about it earlier in one of his comments. The amount of varieties, the large amount of varieties of cassava. So it's quite a lot. 6,000, over six
Yeah.
thousand
But in our
and we
Garifuna
have right now
community,
15 to 20 in our
we
country.
had, yeah, but within the Garifuna community, we had 35 that were just ours, that only existed in our communities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know what's happened to those varieties.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of the things the I believe the Ministry of Agriculture was trying to catalog them,
Okay.
um, but it was unsuccessful, and I'm glad that it was, because it would we would have lost they're still in our communities. We just don't know where they are, but at least they're still
Mm-hmm.
in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Once
Mm-hmm.
they get picked up by an entity, then they get to claim that genetic structure. And we're the ones who cultivated those genetics. So they belong to us.
Yes.
If we're going to call owners, right?
Yeah.
So they're basically coming along saying, bring us all of your different cassavas that we don't have categorized. We'll give you a little bit of money. You just give us your cassava. And then we'll uh, document the molecular or the genetic structure. But then somebody has to own that. And it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be us. So I rather we keep it and claim
Yes.
ownership over it. But if any entity comes around requesting specimen of our undocumented varieties of cassava, I don't think you should give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, and we and you've pointed out the work that we have on cassava alone,
Alone.
because
That's
that
right.
means we need to be researching.
Exactly.
We Garinago, we need to be researching within our communities those varieties. That's work for us. And then exploring, of course, the new things, because they're all these byproducts.
Yeah.
So much added value. There's a lot that we could do. Man, I'm hoping that others are as excited as we are, knowing these new things about something that's been around us for so long. You know, I don't think you can't be Garifuna without cassava.
No,
It just
it don't
doesn't
work.
work. It doesn't work.
You know that
So
there's a facial that I learned about today that I didn't know that it's the cassava, grated cassava with aloe vera juice, like a
Mm-hmm.
facial scrub. Can you believe that? Isn't that nice?
sure.
Yeah.
So check it. So when we grade cassava, see, this is another thing, right? But that's a very significant point, because when we I went to learn how to do the process to make a reba,
Hmm.
and that putting your hand in the grated cassava and sifting, like it was therapeutic. Like,
Oh
your
yeah.
hands
Oh
feel
yeah.
really good
Yeah.
after being in that. I don't know who else could relate, but
Yes.
so when you talked about that just now, when you mentioned it, I could see that, because I see Ernie Martin mention something about argan oil and skin products,
Oh yeah, argan. Yeah, we don't grow that argan here, but we have similar ones. We have
right? So,
Wachari, the oils that we're into. He's pointing out we're into the luxury oil, so it's at that level. Because I
mm-hmm,
know a lot of people are looking at us saying, "How in the world are you ever going to alleviate poverty with just making oil?" But there's definitely a way, and I mean Ernie's onto it, and so are a
mm-hmm,
lot of everybody else in Wachari knows that we are into high end oils. But
yeah,
we won't be doing argan. That's not a crop that we grow, but we do have equivalents.
okay. And then he talked about cocoon oil, cold pressed cocoon oil as well. So
Yeah,
we have options.
abundance.
We have
We have
options, and
yeah.
it's the onus is on us to embrace the abundance that's around us, because like you had talked about this in a previous show, where people make the mistake of thinking that, and I agree fully, that when we don't cut down our lands, we don't cut down the trees and all of that, that we're not using our land. It's just the way we use our land is very sustainable. It's very conservative. We are protective of the environment. We don't exploit the environment. We're not trying to remove it of its value. We think not just of the present, we think about the future. We want to ensure that the land gets time to heal and replenish itself. We don't exhaust the place, and then we can't use the land after a while, or the yields are not as bountiful, then we have to put chemicals on it. That's not our
No
consciousness as a
way.
people. So if we want to leave our farms to grow, leave the trees to grow. That's our way of using the land.
Yeah.
We use it respectfully. We're
Right.
not going to rape the whole place and take down everything and just destroy everything. That's not our way. That's not the way we operate as a people. So, and for those Garinagu who don't know the traditional way, it's important for them to find out, learn the traditional way, because the traditional way is more sustainable. It is why our communities are lush and still healthy, because
Yes.
of the traditional way that we use the earth. And we should definitely continue to embrace that, get back into that. All right. So as quickly as that, just like that, Doc,
Wow.
we're down to the last 3 minutes thereabouts.
And you didn't give us no ice cream, nothing, Eva. I expect you're gonna make this up to me. You're gonna take me to Hopkins and buy me ice cream.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. It's a must. It's a
A must.
must.
We have to make a trip of it.
There's no visiting Hopkins without visiting nice cream.
Lovely. Well, I feel the same way about Innis. I cannot. I've never been to Hopkins without stopping at Innis, even when they were closed. I knocked on the door. So you have to open because I have to eat Innis. So they're wonderful people. Yeah, we have to protect our businesses like that.
Yes. And I want to thank everybody that made this conversation so lively. All the people that commented and added to the discussion. This was very rich. I really, really appreciate that. So thanks to everybody. Thank you, Doc, for sharing. Looking
You.
forward to seeing you next
Mhm.
week
Thank you
as
so
we
much.
discuss breadfruit. So you have a lineup, by the way, Doc. Just letting you know one time so you could do your homework one time. So
Okay,
you have
we do
breadfruit, you
breadfruit.
have sweet potatoes, you have you have your list.
Thank you. Thank you,
Mhm.
Aoife. I will follow through. Thank you so
Thanks
much.
everybody.